like a crab on a rock. You gotta run real fast, you gotta run real fast. Keep your eyes on the wave, never turn your back. Cause it's Breakfast with Bob.
Thank you, Pancho Man. Welcome back to Breakfast with Bob from Kona at Huggo's on the Rocks. My name is Bob Babbitt, brought to you by Master Spas, SFuels, right fuel, right time. HOKA, Fly Human Fly, Deboer Wetsuits, Quintana, and of course our Challenge Athletes Foundation. Our next guest, the Buffalo Man, Mr. Rudy Von Berg. Round of applause for our man, Rudy. How you doing, Rudy?
Good. Been here for a while now, so I'm an island man.
So you're an island man now.
Bison island man.
You are a Bison island man. Now, do you do a lot of swimming in the ocean?
No, I haven't been in it once.
You wait for race day.
Yeah, I just like the pool. It just keeps
Consistent.
keeps you fast, essentially.
Because you get out in the ocean, you start looking at fish and all that other stuff.
Yeah.
So this year, podium at Challenge Roth. That's such an epic event. You get third there, and you're 7:28:30. What do you take away from Challenge Roth that potentially helps you here?
Yeah, it was my only full distance this year.
Which is good. You're
last
fresh.
year was more of a Ironman focus, but then doing some T100s this year. That was kind of my plan. Do my first Challenge Roth and then kind of peak for Kona later in the season.
Right.
And I think it was really good to do a full in Roth because I made a few mistakes that I actually didn't make last year in 23 in any of my Ironman. So it was kind of good to get a bit of a refresher and kind of keep me on my toes for my nutrition and everything. So I think this hopefully will be I'll execute a bit better. I mean, I was on the podium in Roth, so it was still solid overall, but I just made a couple of mistakes on the run for my nutrition, and it was very painful last 10-15K.
Oh my God. And like you said, last year you did Ironman Florida, you did World Championships at Nice and Ironman Texas. And, all of them, you win Ironman Texas, you get fourth at the World Champs, and you win Ironman Florida. So that's a pretty good season.
Yeah, 2023 was really good, especially when with the crash. I had my first collarbone break.
When was that now? Was that early in the season?
That was in June.
Okay. So after Texas, before Nice and Florida.
Right.
Yeah.
And then, but sometimes people try to always tell you the positives of when something happens, and they're like, you'll be fresh, you'll be ready to go for the end of the season.
Yeah.
And I guess in a way it somewhat happens. I was a little tight on form in Nice, even though it ended up being quite good. But then in Florida, I was that was my best race of the year.
No question.
About 8 weeks later. So hopefully, ideally that would have been in Nice, but I mean that's how things were, and I was fourth, so it was really good.
Yeah, when you go to World Championship and get fourth, it shows you that when the lights are bright, you do well. It's an important race. You're going to do well.
Yeah, hopefully this and this year is the biggest one. Actually, I was looking. This year's the first year I haven't won a race since 2017.
Really?
So
that's right.
I was like, it's going to have to be Kona then.
You got to win something.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, you're right. You got a third at Roth and a seventh at San Francisco T100. Is it hard to balance doing the T100, which are fast, and you have a lot of Olympians, and it's the fastest people on the planet, and then coming and stepping back up to iron distance?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, for next year, I'm going to have to choose. I can't really do,
it's hard to do both.
Ironman Pro Series or even just qualify for Worlds, do Nice, and then do the T100.
Right.
The T100 is such high-level races that you have to really focus on them. And I mean, same as a Kona would, you wouldn't focus on other races around Kona, right?
No.
Everyone has specific preps for Kona, and I kind of would need the same for the T100.
Right.
And also I had a bit of bad luck in the beginning of the year. I was just low on some vitamins that I felt really fatigued. So the first couple races didn't go well. Then the one I could kind of train pretty well for, it was in the build for Roth San Francisco.
Yes.
So that was my best one. So I kind of proved to myself, if I do have the build,
you're on the right path.
Like I can still do completely well at a T100.
There's no reason why not.
But then London, a few weeks after Roth, I was completely kind of out of form.
Yeah.
So but now I've had like an 11-week build for this race, and I'm feeling quite good. So really hope it's a good one.
Now, how have you changed as an athlete over the last last number of years? It's pretty interesting that one year you do 3 Ironmans, next year the focus is on, Roth and Kona. How have you changed and adapted to that?
Yeah, I mean, there's kind of been a natural progression throughout my career. I was focusing on 70.3s till 2022. I never wanted to get up, kind of maybe a slightly more old school mentality, like don't go to full Ironman too early in your career when you're too young.
Yes.
And I think, it worked well for me. I did well at 70.3s for many years, and it's kind of, a good progression towards fulls. And then, the queen distance is the full Ironman, and it's in Kona.
Yes.
So, it's going to be changing a bit now, but yeah, Kona or Nice or wherever else, that's the biggest race in the sport. Or
You
races
need to
like
be there.
Challenge Roth as well.
Yeah.
So that was always going to be kind of the goal, to win these races.
Yes.
And so now I'm in it. This year, it was a bit different with T100. They even pay you when you're last. At least you break even.
It's important.
It makes it a real professional sport in a
Yes.
way. Here it's only top 15, and then you have a pretty good race. You're between 16th and 25th, and you're not getting paid at all here.
Right. So you lose money
It's a bit
coming
tougher. Yeah.
So this is it's an interesting era because you're dealing with, you've got the T100 and you've got Ironman series and you've got Challenge. For a long distance athletes, it's actually a pretty good era to be out there as a professional, you think?
Yes, it definitely is. There's opportunity, which is what you want, and at the same time, it can make it a bit more difficult if you try to juggle different series.
Do everything. Yeah.
Because I know for me, I like to think I'm a bit an athlete like Jan Frodeno, in the sense as I have to focus on a race. I can't just do everything. I'm not gonna. I have to peak to perform really well against all these guys. I can't just be be at 95% all year and I'm super strong all year and I'm battling for the win every time. Like I just have to focus on races and bring my best. If not, it's not gonna be my best race. Yeah.
But it's hard when you see the dollars out there and you're like, oh, I could go to that T100. I know I'm the worst that's happened, and I make some money.
Right. It's kind of a thing, are you going to try to make money quickly in 1 year, or are you going to try to kind of build for races, and then that will make you more money just at one race, maybe less for the year, but then it will build your kind of your profile more to have really high performances, let's say twice in the year, rather than having average throughout. So yeah, you kind of got to calculate and see where you're going to be better at. So
is this your first Kona?
No, 22
was
the first one. Yeah,
that's right. Okay,
yeah.
so in 22
I was 20th 22nd somewhere.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. But in 22 you won Ironman France, right? So you're like you said.
But I took no sodium on the run here, so I had to walk at the end.
Did you?
Yeah.
That's never fun.
Yeah, it's that feeling when I just wasn't focused on sodium, which was kind of odd. I was focused on fluids and carbs, and then I was just getting really low on sodium, which kind of makes you feel like you want to nap on the marathon. You're just kind of out of it, and you really feel like you want to go sleep.
And so now you obviously incorporate a little more sodium in your training and recovery.
Yeah.
So I'm looking at it like you're one of those guys who got into the sport. Your dad was mom racing too, or mainly just dad?
Mom didn't grow up doing endurance sports, but she started doing running marathons.
Yes.
And my dad, it's been his whole life. It's been his thing.
So you've spent a ton of time here.
Yeah, my dad it's a pretty interesting story. He was he went to Harvard Business School.
Yes.
Then he was working in New York City, and he had a good job making money in the 80s, right?
Right.
And then he goes in front of this building, and there's this poster, Big Apple Triathlon. And pretty much, to make the story short, that was the igniter for him quitting his job and doing a triathlon every other weekend.
He's got a great job. He decides to just quit his job.
Yeah,
and
he went all in triathlon.
He went all in.
And
that was the Big Apple. I think that was more of an Olympic, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. And he was kind of living race to race, and he was investing a bit of money, so he was like okay on that side, but he still had to make the money from the races, and he just went all in, and he was one of the early pros.
Do you remember coming here with Dad when he was racing here as an age grouper?
Somewhat, yeah.
Okay, you were really
1998, I was 5.
Okay. Yeah.
So that was the first time.
That was it.
We have all those photos where he's 6'4" and I'm tiny and the whole family.
When did you realize that you wanted to sort of follow in Dad's footsteps and do this sport?
I'm not sure if it was when I was 5, maybe already then.
Really?
But
Even
we
that
went back
early?
when I was 9.
Yeah.
So maybe it was the trip when I was 9. But, you know, you see these guys and they're just kind of gladiators, you know, out there. And, I mean, I don't know what kid doesn't think, like, oh, one day if I could be one of these guys, that'd be so cool. So that was kind of me.
And then when you got into the sport, obviously you're a very talented athlete. You could have gone down the ITU path, and I think you did for a while.
Yeah.
But you realized because of your love of this, this is where you wanted to be.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's kind of what I told you, the progression throughout the years in triathlon. You know, in juniors, there's no 70.3s or anything. So in juniors, I was doing ITU or sprint distance, Olympic, and ITU racing. Yeah. And did it for a few years, got even into a few World Series races. But my swim was a bit weak and, you know, my training just wasn't really adequate and I was just young, so I didn't have great results. Right. But I was still developing myself and working hard and, you know, little by little.
And then were you living in Europe at that time? Until you were 19 or so?
A little bit in juniors. Okay. And then I was living in South France, racing for Italy. But then I switched very soon after when I was 19. Moved to Boulder, CU Boulder, started racing for the US. And then just started doing half distance.
I remember, was it 18? Wildflower? Yeah, you won Wildflower, knocked off Jesse Thomas?
Yeah. That was one of my first
that was your first major wins.
Pretty good win.
Yeah, and we were like, who's this guy?
Yeah.
Because you were pretty young.
Yeah, I was not that young in today's terms, I guess, because guys are just younger and younger. I mean, they win worlds now at 23.
I know. It's a little... Have you seen... obviously, the sport has changed a lot since you've been involved with it. Mm-hmm. It used to be you'd look at somebody swimming 50 and riding for 15 and running, 245 and go, that guy's going to be a factor.
Easily to win.
Right, easily to win,
right?
What you
just said, easily to win.
Now, it's, it's sub 50, it's 405, and it's 235. How have you adapted to how fast the sport has gotten?
I mean, it's the progression of the sport. Yeah, I mean, it's been a bit crazy, but you always maybe tend to be a bit intimidated looking at all the times. Yes. But then you realize in the race, I have my card to play as well.
Yes, you do.
You just have to focus on yourself, is the usual thing, and do your improvements. And if you have the inner conviction, that you can compete on race day, if you're on your best with the best, then you kind of make it happen in a way,
So last time you were 4th at the World Championships at Nice. The goal, a podium or above here?
In my head, my goal is a top 5.
Yeah.
So if I could repeat a top 5 2 years in a row, it would be really good.
Impressive.
I mean, I always say if you're racing for 5th or 4th, you're probably pretty close to 3rd too. So it's not like you're putting limits, I can't do better than 4th.
Right.
But, with the guys here and just the level of the field and how hard of a race this is.
Yes.
If I say I want to do a top 5, that's already a pretty big goal.
Exactly.
So then we'll just have to see how the form is on race day. But, I mean, I've done everything I could, I think, to perform. So just got to not mess it up on race day. And, yeah.
So for people watching at home and are wondering, what the hell is this guy wearing on his head? Talk a little bit about the whole idea of relating to a buffalo.
Yeah, so I mean, already when I was little, I was kind of just fascinated with the animal.
Yeah,
it was just the coolest animal. And then
pretty cool.
I got gifts already of little bison. I have this cool bronze bison at home. So that was already before going to CU Boulder when I was 19.
Yep.
And then CU Boulder is the CU Buffaloes.
Yep.
So now I was like, oh, okay, that's cool. And it's the only school I applied to. So it's not like I was being disloyal or anything. And so then it's kind of started being a thing. And just with my friends at home, just the bison heads into the storm. It's the only animal that does that.
Right.
So you can kind of have a parallel with training and being tough and perseverance and all that.
Well, you certainly
So
have done
if,
that.
if a friend doesn't train, I'll be like, oh, you're not a real Bison. You know, like I'm a real Bison. I trained in the
Doesn't matter what the
in
weather
the freezing
is.
weather,
Exactly.
whatever. You know.
Just bundle up.
Yeah, so kind of have fun with it, and so now it's just
I love it.
I'm the Bison.
Rudy, thanks so much for taking time. Good luck out there on Saturday, man.
Thank you.
Rudy Von Berg has been our guest. Pacho Man, take us out.
Sounds like thunder, gotta hit for the high ground. Water coming, no fooling around. Cause it's breakfast with Bob.
Thank you, Pacho Man.